Okay, so I've been staring at this image for the last, I don't even know how long, and I would love to do something similar to this, probably more zoomed in and not as wide, but this is awesome. It's by this guy right here, this dude. And so go check him out on ArtStation. He's got a lot of cool stuff. Here's the inspiration for this one. Basically, my rough plan for this is I just want to take, well, I'm just going to go from scratch and I'm just going to model a bunch of basic buildings. And so if you look in here, none of these buildings are that complex of a shape. They're all kind of just different variations of cubes and like basic type geometry with a like a building window texture over top of that for the emission. So let's see if I can just crank this one out and yeah, let's just go. So I'm not gonna show the entire process of like modeling a ton of buildings. I'll probably show like 2 or 3 and then cut out or skip the part where I just repeat that process like 8 more times, because you know, that's not fun to watch. And this kind of goes against one of the earlier lessons in the course of like, you know, start with the thing that's going to have the biggest impact on the render so you have some momentum so it's easy to finish it. So I would recommend, you know, maybe don't do it in this exact order. I would say find your own building models, just download some or use OSM or do it in a separate session. Or if you really feel like it, you can just do what I'm doing and model it and then just jump straight into rendering or right into the rest of the environment right after that. But let's just, I'm just going to start because I need some more buildings for some, like this will probably be available in the pack that comes with this anyways. And that'll just make my life a bit easier and your life. To make buildings, it's very easy. At least buildings that are going to use from far away. It's basically just like take cubes and make them a bit taller and then do variations of that, and there you go. So I'll texture them after, but I just want to get some basic ideas out first. So I really don't want to overcomplicate this because these do not have to be complex shapes. So like even right now I'm probably doing more than I need to, so I might just do this. Let's go scale it up by 1.5 or scale it up by 2. So just adding 2 loop cuts, scaling them up, and then I just want to extrude these just for a little bit of variation. So Alt-E, extrude faces along normals, just pull that out a little bit, and there we go. And then if I really want, I could, you know, pull this up, and then pull this up, and then there we go, got a building. Okay, and that will just, I'll throw a basic texture on that later. But let's just keep going, and I'm going to use this as a reference for just different ideas of some of the shapes I can get in here. So let's do a longer one with some of these like horizontal slats in here. It's kind of cool. So let's scale this down a little bit and pull that up, and let's just pull this up to like here. That's kind of the right height-ish. Let's see. So this, I think I'll just inset. Let's just see how big that border is on there. Not huge. It's probably too much. So like this. Let's extrude that, scale it down a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is just in the same spot, take another cube, scale this down, scale it down this way, pull it out like this, and just kind of have it like right in there, a little bit thinner. And then this will be like those vertical, like spacing for the floors. I don't know what you call this, but like just this thing. Yeah. Okay, so there we go, Cyberpunk. So that'll go there, and then we can just have like some, I don't know, some random thing on the top. Let's apply the scale, inset, extrude that down a little bit, maybe pull this in and extrude that up a little bit, something like that. And there we go, building. Okay, let's join that, I guess apply the array and then join it. And then there we go, we got another one. And I'm just gonna keep doing this till till I just can't take it anymore because we need quite a few of them. Let's do one of these horizontally like curved weird ones. So let's just, I don't know, start by pulling this up. Maybe, what kind of, let's just pull this like out a little bit here and just do some like literally kind of random-ish extrusions. And then take this, there we go, cool. That's a little bit far out here. So I just pull that in slightly. And I could do the same like right there. I don't know if that makes that much sense, but it's kind of cool. And there we go. And now just take this and let's just maybe even inset this entire top. If that's gonna work, maybe. Just pull that in, inset again, scale it down because I don't think I can inset that any further. Although I kind of have to because, oh, that works fine. That's fine. Let's pull that up to like there. Maybe even inset again if I can. Doesn't look like it. I might ruin the, did I ruin the geometry? No, it's fine still. Okay, I'll just call that one there. That's fine. Maybe just pull this back a little bit so it's not so extreme. And I can use some of the antennas from the other pack in the course to just fill out the rooftops. That'll make it really easy. And that's fine. Okay, let's just keep going here. Let's see what else we got. Let's do, this one's kind of weird. Just kind of like yeah, I'll just show you. This up, I don't know, scale it, oops. Scale it this way a little bit, apply scale, and inset this, extrude this down, inset it again, like in here, and then extrude that to the same level, kind of. That's what that one was doing. It's a bit weird, but it's kind of cool, sure. And then what I might do actually is just take some cubes in edit mode, just to add the cubes, and just kind of pretend these are like something important. You know, pretend like AC units or something. Again, these are going to be so far away that I don't really care if it's not the best quality because you're not really going to be able to see any of the details. You're just going to see like boxes. So this is going to be totally fine. And maybe let's do one with like a bevel like that. That's kind of cool. And just pull this up and then maybe even inset all these faces by themselves like this, and I extrude that inwards like along normals a little bit, not too much. And then maybe even take like this piece right here, duplicate that in edit mode, just that entire face, separate by selection, set the origin to geometry, extrude it so it's now 3D, pull it down in like this, add that array trick again, so just offset of 2, so it's like this, and then that is just like free detail, kind of like this. That's kind of nice, sure. And yeah, I think from far away that'll look really nice. And we could even do one more of those without that weird thing. So let's maybe just duplicate this. In fact, could even take this face again, duplicate that face, separate by selection. And to separate by selection, I'm just selecting a face, pressing P on the keyboard, and then just hitting this one here, selection. Okay, and then let's go origin to geometry, extrude. I guess I can just do that all the way, and then pull that like right to here. Cool. And there's another one. Let's just join those. Put it off here. Take this one. That's fine. Just rotate it a different way. And I guess I'll just add a little bit of detail to the roof so that it's not just so plain. So let's pull that in like this. Maybe not that much. And maybe actually expand it out a little bit. Make it a bit thinner. And maybe same cube trick as before. Just kind of put something there. I don't really know. Like 2 of them. Maybe just take this bevel so it's just like slightly, I guess that doesn't really make sense to bevel it, but yeah, whatever, something like that. And I think that'll be good. If I really want to go crazy, I can like duplicate this again and like make some smaller variation of this. But again, I really do not want to spend too much time on this because little details like this, we're not even going to see it, so there's no point in adding it, and it actually will ruin the quality of the rest of this because it means I'm just wasting energy and time on something that nobody's going to see, and it means that that energy and time will not go into something that's actually important and productive. So I want to be careful with how I'm allocating my effort in this render. That's going to be especially important in something as big as this, right? Okay, let's do something like this where it's like kind of it's almost like a boat shape. Not really a boat, but it's like, I don't know, whatever this is, like going like that. Yeah. So the reason the bevel looked weird there is because I didn't actually apply the scale, but that actually worked out fine. So let's just do that, and let's pull this up, and we could do like, I don't know, this one maybe let's inset this. Let's apply the scale now so that the inset will actually work properly. And then extrude, inset, extrude, inset, extrude. I'm trying to keep it roughly the same each time. And then maybe inset again and extrude this way. And then maybe inset again and extrude it up just a little bit like that. Cool. That'll be fine. And let's just do maybe one or two more, because I really don't want to spend too much time just making like random buildings. This one, let's just do like cube, scale it in a little bit, take a little chunk this way, like this, extrude that up, and that could have been bigger, like this. I don't know. That one's kind of weird. And then maybe we can do like two little things like this. I don't know. I don't know if this makes that much sense, but might. Just variation is what I'm going for. Just variation so that we just have just enough stuff so it doesn't look like it's just duplicated around so many times. Okay, that one's kind of weird, but we'll go with that. That's fine. Let's do one more. Let's just pick a kind of interesting one in here if I can. Like this. Let's do... Okay. It's going to be similar to this one, but just like more beveled or something. So let's do that. And then I guess just like... So I'm just adding a loop cut beveling. That's another way to get this kind of shape, I guess. The exact buttons I'm pressing probably doesn't really matter so much as the techniques and the overall shapes that I'm getting by doing this. That's kind of what's more important here. So however you want to get shapes like this, do that. Okay, let's just do Shift G normal for select similar normal. Pull that up. Do I inset this? I don't know. Let's try this. Like take this and extrude that, and then maybe just take this and just extrude that. And is that going to be weird? A little bit, but it kind of looks like it makes sense. And then maybe this one we can just inset and I again to do it all in one chunk. And let's actually go a little bit more inwards, like this. Pull that up again. Sec, pull that up. And then maybe once more. I don't know. Maybe just pull this up. That's fine. That looks weird and like building-y. Okay, and I think we're good. I think that's enough for now. Maybe what I want to do is actually spend a little bit of time texturing this. I'm not going to go crazy, but let's just get a basic texture on here just for something. So I know this is going to be a dark environment, so I'm just going to take the sky texture out. I know I'm kind of like speed running this, but that's just how I do it. Even if I'm not even even when I'm not doing a tutorial, this is just how I work. But hopefully it's not too fast. So let's get a building window texture on this, and for that I have one from one of these websites. I think Pixabay. Yeah, this one. So Pixabay, Unsplash, all those free stock photo websites are all going to work just as good. This is just one I found on Pixabay that works really well, and I've used this exact image in tons of renders because it's like a perfect side profile of just some office building, and that's exactly what I want. So you can see it's just building with windows, perfect, and it's really easy to just throw that on. It'll tile like kind of well because it's all lined up nice and square, so that's perfect. By the time this is actually out, I might have actually gone downtown or like used like something or like created some pack of building windows. So I'll link that. I'll be sure to make that clear if that's available. But for now, I don't have that yet, so I'm just going to use this. So here's how I do it. Unwrap this with a cube reject because it's kind of a cube. And we're going to run that into, I guess, the emission. I guess we'll just run it to the emission, and then maybe the emission strength as well. And I can dial that in later with a math node. I don't want them emitting from the top, so let's take, if you just go to edit mode, select all the top faces, and let's just make a new texture, assign it, and then there we go. So now it's not going to be emitting light from like the roof or something. And I could do the same with the floor, but it really doesn't matter because you're not going to see that, so I'm not going to bother. And maybe let's go to material preview actually, because I do need to kind of see what's going on here a little bit. So let's make this dark. Cool. I could even run this into the roughness. That might be fine. And then dial that in a little bit better with a color ramp. Let's just see how much I can get away with using one single texture. So there we go. That's pretty good. Let's scale that up on the UV map just so it's a little bit more like detailed. And I could even stretch it on the X, like stretch it inwards so that this gets like pulled out horizontally a bit more, which is kind of the vibe of this one where it's like it almost looks like it's kind of the texture's like stretched out on the y-axis like this, or stretched inwards on the x. That's kind of a cool look, so I'm going to run with that. And for the emission color, maybe let's take a mix color node. Just change that to multiply. And by the way, I'm in Blender, what is this? 3.6. So whenever you're watching this, just make sure you update to the latest version. Otherwise, you might have trouble following along, or the packs might not work. Anyways, let's multiply in some kind of cyberpunk color like this, blue, green type grunginess. Not too much. I'm not cranking the saturation too high. I'm not cranking the mix factor too high. Those are kind of the same thing in this case, but just enough to where it's like not so just regular photo looking. Just something to just spice it up a little bit. I could, if I wanted to, even desaturate it before it goes into that node, just to like bring that down a bit, but I don't know. Let's take this this building window here, and let's run that into the other material on this, like the roof section here. And I could just run that into the roughness and the color, not the color, make that black. And let's take a color ramp for this, whoops, color ramp, come on. COL, color ramp. Run that to the roughness, bring this here, crank this down a little bit, just for some kind of variation in the roughness, but we're not emitting light, just, you know. So you can see it's now just gonna be like that. So that's fine. That's gonna be good for now. I could keep scaling that up if I want to, but I think it's fine. If I really want, I could bring that way down, but I don't need to. That's kind of cool there, actually. I might run with that, maybe. Just find a different part of the texture that makes sense. And if there's areas that look good, but then some other areas look bad, you can always just select certain parts of the mesh and then just move that around on the UV map like this, and then just fix it manually. That's totally fine. And I really don't want to spend too much time on this, because it's gonna be tons of them, and it's gonna be covered up by other stuff, and it's gonna be just hidden in the back, and yeah. Anyways, let's take all these. Let's apply the scale for all of them. I'm gonna hold Alt while I apply scale, because I think that'll just do it to all of them all at once. You might not have to hold Alt, but I'm just gonna do it. And let's Control L material on this thing. So the way you do that is you select all the things you want, select the last thing that has the material you want, Control L for link. It'll link all of the ones selected to the brighter selection, like the orange one here. And then material, just choose material from the list. There you go. And then let's take all these, unwrap with a cube projection. And I can actually probably go in all at once and just do this for all of them. Yeah, that might actually work. And I might take a loop cut on a few of these just to do what I did earlier and split up the texture into like two halves, so that hang on a second. This one's tricky. I'll do that later. But yeah, let's kind of like find a good half for this, and then see how like the other half's kind of messed up. I'll just kind of deal with that by like, I don't know, taking certain chunks and just moving them to hopefully better areas like this. I can't really like batch all of them all at once, so you're gonna have to go in individually a bit for some of these, but it's fine. And this kind of thing I'll probably cut out, because you don't see me do the same process over and over and over again. You just need to see it a couple times, and you get the idea. Control L. Okay, this Control L. Let's invert that just to select. I guess I have to go to this one only, just to select those slats there, and I'm just gonna make a new texture, make it white only, and just assign that there. And there you go. It's gonna be fine. You know, that is fine. Maybe make it a bit darker so it's not so bright, but I don't need anything else in there. It's totally fine. I could use one more texture, I think, and that is for these rooftop things. So let's do that maybe. Just assign this, and we're just gonna call it rooftop thing. Yeah, that's how you spell that. And let's take a grunge type map, or just some texture. Let's go textures.com. This will have something. So just any grungy surface is gonna work fine for this. Chuck that on here, run that into the roughness, and just make this like, I don't know, a bit darker, and just for some variation, so it's not all using the same material all over the entire thing all at once. So I just want something a little bit different. This one might not work. Maybe let's try like this. Maybe run it to the color as well, just for some, yeah, I don't know, curves. Again, it's going to be far away. You got to keep that in mind when you're making stuff like this, because I don't want to spend much time working on like stuff I don't need to be working on. Okay, this let's take all these faces for all these buildings here that have this style of roof. Let's take all these, edit mode, select only the top faces like this, and deselect the ones we don't want. And then let's just assign that rooftop material to that. Either the rooftop material or something else. Whoops. Assign. Oh, I guess I have to actually control L material again, so they're all on here. Okay, so for that rooftop material, I've just taken that texture, made it darker. I turned up the metallic. I don't know if I'm going to keep that, but for now it looks good. And I'm just using a color ramp to crank the roughness a bit, because this texture is, if I run it straight in, it's a bit too much. So that's what we're doing with that. It's on all of them, like this, and that just gives it a really grungy feeling. That's just going to be nice. I think what I'm going to do right now is just go in, clean up a few of these building models. Just there's some spots on the texture, like these little chunks here, I really don't like. So I'm going to go in, just select some of the faces and just refine what part of the texture gets shown on here. Pretty basic, just repetitive. I'm just going to cut that out, and then I'll come back when I've just kind of cleaned these up a little bit. Okay, I've just gone and cleaned up some of these models, just taken the UV map and just moved around certain sections to get the best out of the texture on each different model. These are not perfect, but why would they be? They don't need to be. They're going to be so far away. They're going to be small. It doesn't matter. They don't need to be perfect, and they shouldn't be perfect, because why would I waste time on that? So what I'm going to do now is take all these buildings and just organize them into different chunks of sort of like city blocks that I can use to spam around the scene a bit. Spam is not really the right word, but place around the scene. And it's going to be easier to work with little chunks and clusters of buildings versus trying to create an entire city by taking individual models and duplicating them out one by one. That just gets overwhelming. So I think it'll be easier to just deal with this if I make a bunch of blocks of like city blocks of buildings, and then use that, make a few variations of those, and then use that to duplicate around the scene. I think that'll be easier. That'll be much easier to fill out an entire city versus just doing one by one. So I'm just going to take these and arrange them into clusters, essentially, make a couple variations, and then I'll just come back when that's done. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just taking those models I just made, putting them into little clusters, and the reason I want to do it in block type formations is because I want it to be easy to create streets in between all these chunks that I'm going to make. And so if I have it in like square-ish shapes, that'll mean when I combine these different pieces together, I'll be able to create like a street or a pathway between them where I can fill that with other neon signs or streetlights or whatever, just like a regular city would be laid out. So that's going to be a lot nicer to work with. So I'm just going to keep doing this. It's fine if I use the same. It's fine if I use the same model in multiple versions of these clusters, as long as the clusters themselves look different enough that when they're duplicated around, you can't really tell. That's totally fine. And I can take the same model and like stretch it out and reuse it in a different way and just have variation like that, and that's totally fine. So I'm just going to keep working with this, and I'll just come back when it's a bit more, when I've got a few more of these clusters done. Okay, so I've just gone ahead and organized these now into kind of just chunks. I didn't make any more buildings. I just used the same ones I just made and then organized them and duplicated them into different little clusters like this. And I'll just join these together in a second, but I've just taken a few of these buildings that could just stand out on their own like this and just put them over on their own. So I think what I'll do is use these chunks to build the base shape of the city, and then use these buildings, which are actually the same ones, just duplicated on their own individually, these ones to just add variation to the overall shape and just have like some unique buildings sticking up here and there out of the crowd of the other ones. So kind of like in here, we've got a bunch of small buildings that kind of just cluster together, and then we've got like big ones over here that stick up on their own. That's what I'm going to save these for. and hopefully that will kind of work out. We'll see. This here, I just took this, the same building I made earlier, duplicated it, made it taller, took a little piece like this, nothing special, and then just put the roof material there, building material there, little bridge, 2 of them across, and we're good. Okay, and then you can do stuff like that to just add a little bit of extra geometry into these clusters or whatever, and there we go. So let me start taking these and joining them together. So let's just clear object and data, join, make sure all the modifiers are applied before you do that, obviously. Clear object and data. I guess I should try and clean this up a little bit and just make it a bit more flush. Yeah, whatever. Good enough. Okay, object and data, join. And I'm just clicking that in case I pressed Alt-D on any of them. I don't think I did, but just in case. And join. And boom. And join. And then we've got these little chunks now, 6 of them, or 5. And we've got this stuff over here. And let's just join these ones together. Object and data, join. And there we go. From here, I'm going to start laying out the basic shape of the city. And let's see if I can figure out a basic camera angle that I want to stick to. So I'm actually not scaling anything up yet, because when I scale it up, it's going to be a lot more annoying to work with. So I'm just going to get a rough camera angle, get a rough outline of where I want this to go, and then I'll scale it up from there, I think. And let's try and align this so that the x-axis is still left and right, and then the y-axis is still forward and backwards. So something like this. Let's rotate this all 90 degrees so that it kind of lines up the way I want. And this is kind of the angle I want. So I know I want it to be roughly not super wide. Like in this one, I don't think it's a wide angle lens. It's pretty, not telephoto, but like it's not like 16 millimeters, like wide angle. So I'll stick with 50 for now. I think that's a good starting point. And we'll just kind of build out the rough shape of a city and adjust this as I need to. And here's what it's looking like in rendered view right now. You can see that texture was carrying this technique pretty far. Yeah, so there's material preview. Just dark, reflective, emission, done. And then we'll just build out a city from this. And then I might have to add in little lights and like red lights and neon signs here and there on top of these. But for now, I'll just, this is where I really want to be careful to Alt-D these clusters. That's important because if I want to add some variation by some like little red lights like you see on here, like stuff like this, these little red lights or anything like that to any of these models, and I want it to get applied to all of them, having pressed Alt-D is going to be really handy for that. So let's just start building out like a street way or like just a city block that this can kind of follow. And this is what I mean where having those chunks is going to make it a lot easier. Like it's much, much easier to fill out an entire, like a very large space all at once by just having chunks like this versus trying to place these, you know, one by one. I still might need to add variation and switch things up here and there because, you know, you might be able to tell that it's just getting duplicated and repeated, but I think this will work pretty well. And I don't need everything to follow the exact same pattern here and there. Like I can switch things up, rotate some of these 45 degrees and like just have it a little bit weird and offset it a little bit. And that's just normal for a city. Like it's pretty common in if you look at like the map of a city for things to be, you know, rotated at weird angles like this, and just some blocks are all aligned a certain way, and then it just randomly switches up to like 45 degrees from that. So I'm not too worried about, like I'm actually wanting to get a bit of that effect like this, and that'll just make things feel a lot more natural, I think, versus, you know, a lot of Blender cities you see are so square and everything's so perfectly in line and it's so cubic and just repetitive. I don't want that effect. I want to avoid that at all costs. So I'm just going to be rotating. I don't even need to go 45 degrees. I could go like some weird angle like this and then just keep, you know, rolling with this kind of thing. And you know, it doesn't all have to line up well at all, actually. In fact, if you look at the map, I suggest like going to Google Maps and like if you're in a city, or just pick any city and look at the way that the buildings are actually laid out, a lot of the times it's really unpredictable and just kind of a bit more of a mess than you would expect it to be. And so that's what I want to go for here. I guess I could use a reference of an actual city if I wanted to really go take this to as realistic of a level as I could, but I'm not going to do that right now. And it's fine to just take whole chunks and like really kind of just duplicate it around like this. Kind of fine. So yeah, there we go. We're building a city. I'm just going to keep going until this starts looking bad, because for now it's actually fine. And once I get some lights in here, some neon signs, some volumetrics, that will really like take this to the next level. Because right now it's just kind of bland and repetitive, but again, once we add all those effects, that's going to be really nice. Oh, and by the way, I'm like purposely leaving a path in the middle down here. I think it'll be cool to have a main strip down the middle with like a bunch of neon signs. I think that'll be cool. Kind of like in this reference I have here, where it's like this in the middle, just to create a point of interest, so it's not all just a pure... When you look at the image, I don't want you to just see chaos and just lights everywhere. I want it to be... I want there to be some kind of flow through the image, some kind of like guide to lead your eye down a certain path and make it like fun and nice, pleasing to look at, versus just like chaos, lights everywhere, unlimited complexity, just nonsense. Yeah, so let's try and do that. And the farther away from the camera this gets, the less good it needs to be. So that's why I'm getting like pretty reckless over here, just kind of not even really worrying too much about it. And honestly, if I really want to just quickly do this, you know, do that. Let's flip it around. And let's increase the view distance up here to 500, 1,000 meters, whatever. This is the kind of scene where I probably don't need to work in like perfectly in like at a realistic scale, because, well, maybe I should. I don't know. I'll figure that out later. Everything's going to be so far away that I don't really care. So, you know, if it helps you to work on a realistic scale for this kind of thing, I would say go for it. But I would not say it's necessary, because I don't think that would help me much in this case. Sometimes it does help to have things at a realistic scale, but sometimes, you know, in things like this where it's just a big city, maybe it doesn't matter as much. Okay, cool. Let's get some lights and volumetrics and a floor in here, just so I can get a better sense of what this is actually going to look like. The other thing too, when you have this at a full realistic scale, is when you add objects, they're so tiny in comparison to everything else that it's really annoying to work with. And doing this is just a lot easier. So, floor, I'll deal with that later. Let's get some lights and volumetrics just so I can kind of see what we're working with here. So it might be cool to have something like over here in the distance, kind of reflecting on the rooftops. And then let's get some volume. So cube, scale, over everything, display as bounds. I guess I should show that again, even though I've showed it before, but yeah, you go to display as bounds. This tab, the orange square, scroll down to viewport display, display as, change it to bounds right here. It's, you can't really see that, display as bounds. Add that to your quick favorites if you want, just right click this, add to quick favorites, and that's what I have here for, or I guess shortcuts, not quick favorites. So right click, assign shortcut, I meant. And then for me it's D for display as, and then I can just click bounds, and then done. New texture, delete this, take a volume scatter, plug it into the volume. 0.01 will be an okay starting spot. Anisotropy turned way up. And maybe that's a bit much, so 0.005 maybe. And I don't like how I can see this white thing here, so let's just kind of make that darker. And maybe switch this to an area light. Maybe not though. Maybe I just need to make the roofs a bit more reflective, because I want to be able to really see the reflectiveness going on here. So let's take this up a little bit. And maybe I don't need it metallic, maybe I just need it brighter. Maybe it does need to be metallic. and we can see what's going on here. Maybe I could just Control T. It's kind of like snow, and just scale up the what scale? Yeah, to like 4 or 10 or something. I don't know. Yeah, maybe not that much. Maybe just right there. Pull this down. I don't know. Fine for now. This is bugging me, this light. I do not like what's going on with that. Maybe I can pull it further in the distance so it's just kind of like that, whatever. And maybe just bigger volume. Cool. Now, where did those individual buildings go? I kind of lost them in here. Here they are. Yeah, see, I kind of just had them. Whoops. I guess those are fine. I can just scale these up. And then, yeah, so I'm going to take these and just use those loose individual buildings and just make like bigger structures out of those, I think. So we'll just kind of place these around manually. I guess these are all manually placed, but you know what I mean. Just to add a bit more variation, complexity, just interest. Yeah, nice. And I'm not even being afraid of just overlapping it with other ones in these clusters because you can't even tell what's going on. And it's fine if I like use the same one a couple of times. Totally cool. And let's just kind of keep going with this just to get as much variation or the illusion of variation as I can. And then soon we got to figure out how to scatter like neon signs. Maybe not scatter, but just implement neon signs in here. Let me do a test render just to see where we're at, just to see how things are looking. If it's really messy or if it's okay. So this is not good, but I think this will be a good starting point for building off of this, building like neon signs off this. And building like a full-on cyberpunk environment from this. I think we're good. It's very dense. It's very dense. These building windows might actually be too bright as well. So maybe I could even take that down a bit. Let's see. Maybe let's go to the building window texture, and then in the emission strength, I could take a curves node and even drop that down. Like, I really don't need these to be very bright. Like, just drop that like this. Yeah, that's kind of cool. And I could make this a little, or I guess a lot more reflective. That might be really nice. So I'm just changing the roughness here. So just take that down. Maybe some more of these, just by the camera. This one's kind of in the way. Maybe let's just move that to the other side. And I don't want, I want the scale to be a little bit bigger if possible, because, yeah, maybe that. It's a bit repetitive, but I can fix it later. Maybe let's just fix that now. I don't know. Okay, so for the streets, let's figure this out. How am I going to light this up with cyberpunk type stuff? I don't really know. This is always a challenge. Every time I do this, it's always a challenge. But I think a good starting point is take an image plane and kind of just like throw on a city street texture or a entire city texture, and just see if that's going to give me a starting point for like a big street or something. So I do actually have, if I go to my Unsplash downloads, somewhere in here I have top down streets. So I went to Unsplash or Pexels or Pixabay or whatever, and I got a bunch of top down pictures of streets. So I think this might be really useful for just lighting up, like kind of giving the illusion of just nighttime streets. So I could use a repeating one like this. Let's start with that. I could always layer these on top of each other. So I think that's going to be a big thing here. It's just being like figuring out how to layer all of these different textures on top of each other and create something that looks real in the end. Let's take all this and move it over. What I'm doing here to select this without getting the plane is, this actually does select the plane when you just do a box select like this. But if you hold Control and then just hover over anything you don't want, something like that, or like this, that's what I'm doing. All right, so let's extend this, pull out this way, pull this way, and let's figure this out. I'm gonna line this up so that the street is here, and maybe let's do a loop cut, and then take this and maybe extend it over the whole thing and just kind of double this up. So that already expands the texture a little bit, sort of. And maybe, do we tile it? Just tile this like this. Might actually be fine. And that might provide a good base for our Cyberpunk street. And if I just run that to the alpha, scale this in a bit so it's not so big. And then scale this way a bit. I don't know. And that could be a really nice starting point, actually. It's clearly repeating right now, but the more stuff I layer on top of this, I think that'll kind of get hidden, hopefully. And I could tuck this in a bit tighter right there, and then maybe pull this entire side of stuff in. That might be better to kind of hide that a little bit. And right away, that's actually looking very nice. A lot nicer than I thought it was going to look. Sweet. So you can see it's kind of all about creating this illusion that it's just life and streets and neon and stuff. And it doesn't have to be that complicated of a way of doing it. You just kind of have to figure out a method that looks, somewhat like a road, or somewhat like a neon sign, or somewhat like something cyberpunk. And for these really dense areas, you can actually kind of cheat this quite heavily by I'm just duplicating that same texture and stretching it way out like this. And that's just giving me a really wide area that it's covering that looks like you can see what's going on there. This is terrible, but way down at the bottom, shining up and reflecting through all those buildings is actually looking pretty nice. And I'm going to do that once over here, too, if I can. And, when there's areas like this where it's just bad, all you do is you just take any other building that you've made and just put it there and kind of just cover it up like this and just hide all the flaws that way. That's an easy way to cover up little imperfections like that show up when you use techniques like this. So let's keep going with that because it's cool. We just pull this in a bit like this. I'm not worrying about stretching the texture because it's hidden, so it doesn't matter. And this is looking very, I don't know, like Gotham City-ish, just with the colors we're using, but it's kind of cool. If I want, I can make this like blue or something. Like we can take a hue saturation or a mix RGB maybe, like a mix color node, switch it to multiply, drop that in the color, make this like blue or green or whatever, and that could be really nice. Or red, orange. In fact, orange might be kind of cool. Not so extreme, but just a little bit. Looks pretty nice. Maybe overlay that. And let's make that a little bit more like this. That's pretty cool. I kind of like where that's going. And in the distance, it's not really working out right now. Like I gotta fill that out later with more stuff, but that's easy. I can deal with that later. The main problem right now is getting the actual main picture to be to look somewhat okay. So that's what I'm going to focus on for now. I'm not going to worry about the things that don't matter as much. I'm going to prioritize the things that are actually not good about this. And I wish maybe I can find these in the outliner, these individual buildings that I kind of made over here. I don't know. I might have gotten all of them already, but Yeah, I shouldn't have lost those because I do need them. I might have got them all. If not, I could just separate more from some of these clusters. But isn't that crazy? Like the amount of stuff you can just get from a few cubes and a couple of textures. That is pretty crazy. Now let's keep it going. Let's add some more neon signs and just stuff. I think I'm going to isolate this for a sec. Just a regular plane I just added, and let's create a new texture, and let's go to my textures folder, textures.com, and I have a whole folder of signs that I can use here. So if you go to textures.com and you just find neon signs, that's one way of doing it. But what I like to do in particular is find clusters of neon signs, or clusters of just not even neon, but just signs like this. And then that gives you a really easy way to just take one image, duplicate a plane like 5 times, and then just use the UV editor to just map different parts of this image to that UV map. So here's what I mean by that. Let's take that regular plane, new texture. I'll just drop that right on here. So take this. Let's actually do a different one. Well, let's just use the one I was just showing for this example. Drop it in here. Run that to the emission. Let's apply scale, unwrap. Let's apply rotation as well. Then unwrap it so it goes the right way. And then I'm just going to scale this. Let's turn on correct face attributes so that when I scale it in edit mode, it doesn't stretch out the texture. And I can just go in and find little areas that I want to use as individual signs. Just kind of crop them in the UV editor, or in edit mode, or in the UV editor like that. Duplicate that. Move it over like this. I guess y-axis. And then just find a different location for this. So this could be another one. Cool. Duplicate it again. Find another place to put this. So maybe this one could be over here. And you can see when I'm doing this, now I'm not even making a new texture. I'm just using the exact same texture. I'm just, finding a different part of this image to use as its own sign, which is really nice because it means I can go in and now manipulate this whole material and change all these all at once without putting too much time or effort in. So just going to do this as many times as I can for this one image, and then I'll just move on to another image and repeat. But there's a lot in here that I can work with. So just scale this up. Something's not fitting, you just adjust it in edit mode like this, and then I'm just in object mode, pressing Shift D, moving this along. Let's just line that up there. Take this, pull that out this way until it stops. Cool. One more this way, and maybe this thing can go like right here. If I just pull it out like this, and I just adjust it right there. Cool. So straight away, we've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, however many this is, signs, and I can use this and create, a bunch of neon out of that. This is like pretty desaturated, so I think the first thing I want to do is just crank the saturation of that a little bit. Let's run this into the alpha 2, and I might flip that around because this has a white background since it was shot in the day. So I might just take a color ramp and flip around what gets into the alpha, what gets like transparent, what's not. So I want this on this side, and you can see that should remove the white and leave the color, which is what I want. And then from there, we just crank the emission strength a bit, and hopefully that'll kind of do what I want. It's a bit rough with the white, but I think that'll be fine. And then if we want to make this a little bit nicer, we can just take a mixed color, set it to multiply, drop that in here to the color, and then just make it blue or green or something more, cyberpunk. And then we can really crank that emission strength. Not crazy, but, a good amount. 30 or something, 40, I don't know. And then I'm just going to start placing these around. You know what? I could make clusters again. Like we could do this, duplicate this over, make a couple variations, make some of these smaller, make some of them bigger. And that's kind of just cheating it, but it's maybe fine. I haven't really tried this before, but we'll see if that works. Because, I could just actually do this. Clear object and data, make this material unique for this object, and then Control L object and data for this one, or Control L material rather, sorry, and then just switch up the color and like the hue saturation, just change the hue. And I guess I, whoops, messed it up for all of them. What's going on here? So, hue object and data. So make this a unique texture with this button, Control L material, and then now if I change this, it should leave the other ones unaffected. And if I really want to make this hologrammy, what I can do is take, I guess, a wave texture. Is wave texture still thing? Yeah. So wave texture, keep it on sign and just increase the bands, and then just Control T, let's put that onto object coordinates. And scale's way too high, I think. What's going on? There we go, Z. Scale that up like this, or maybe that was too high. There we go. If we apply the scale, it's all uniform now. Okay, so that can just run into the alpha as well. So we can take that multiply, that color multiply, run this in there, crank that up, and now, there we go. It's a bit more sci-fi-ish if we do that. And I might crank the scale up to like 4 just to make it a bit bigger. There we go. And then I could take this, take another color ramp, just leave it where it was. And then I might take the maximum alpha, which is 1, like the maximum value going into the alpha from this color ramp, which is currently set to a value of 1. If I drag this down, you can see what that's doing. I want it to be like transparent a little bit to be hologrammy, but I still want it to be bright. So I can take that down to like 0.1 and then just crank the strength way up again. And that way you might be able to still see through it a bit, but it's still going to be bright. I don't know if that effect is really going to be that clear, but I think it'll work. And then I got to do that on this one too. So let's just copy that chain of stuff I just added. This right here, copy, go to this texture, the first one I made, and then we'll just multiply that there, put this into the right slot, and there we go. And then, yeah, just crank that up. Cool. Now, let's put these in here. So let's actually just join that together. I'm going to be really lazy with this. Literally just join that all into one object. Get out of here, and let's just place these around. Let's move this to a new collection, call this Neon. It's not really neon, it's like LEDs, but whatever. You know what I mean? And as soon as we start layering these in here and just cranking the brightness and letting that light just bounce around in all these reflective areas, I think that's going to look really nice. And let's just do this a couple of times. Cool. That teal and orange looks kind of cool together. So let's just drop that in there a few times. And I don't want to use the same texture too many times because, again, if you can tell that it's like obviously repeating, that's not going to be nice. That's going to ruin your render, and it's just going to be bad. But here and there, not a big deal. Let's do some variation of this and just make it a little bit more interesting. So let's just get back in here, switch up this texture. So let's just make this, click this button to make it a unique texture so it doesn't affect all the other objects using the same texture. And then let's just go into this image. You have to do the same thing for the image because it's split across textures. Click this file path button, and then let's just pick another image of like a bunch of signs. So I'll just choose this one. So it looks like this. If I can go to the UV editor here, this one, and let's go to rendered view, and just unwrap it, cube project, and just pick a bunch of little areas that look like they should be neon signs. So right there. And I think this needs to be flipped around. Does it? Probably. Yeah, okay. So this one I'll flip it just because it happens to look better, but whatever. And then, again, duplicate. Let's put the origin to geometry first before I do that. Now let's duplicate. And we just literally go crazy and just find as many little signs as possible. So there's another one. Duplicate. And this is a very quick way to just fill out detail, which is perfect for what we want. You know, don't feel bad about doing things in a quick, easy way, because if it looks good and it saves you a ton of time, it means you can make better renders because you can allocate that time you saved into other areas and improve the quality further. So definitely don't feel bad about like saving time. It's never a bad thing. You know, obviously you don't want to compromise quality. You want to make good quality work. That's what this is all about. But if you save time in the right way, that can actually lead to better quality work. Let's see if I can figure out. Ooh, that looks way nicer. So let's pull that down. Let's crank this up even more. And let's just distribute some of these into our Cyberpunk scene here. So I'm going to take these, make sure they're in that same collection if they aren't already. Neon signs, yeah, okay. So how do I deal with this? It's a little tricky to deal with just so many clusters of signs sometimes, but I'll just try my best to keep it all in a way that makes sense and looks good. And I do want to line it up with these buildings because it should be like in line with surfaces like this. That is kind of what would make sense. Like that's kind of cool there. And maybe just kind of pull that up a little bit like this. Maybe just switch up the order so it's not a clear repeating pattern as much. You can't really tell what these say, so it doesn't matter if they're repeating a little bit, but try to keep it to a minimum for these. And I can always duplicate this and like Alt S that and just kind of spin it around this way. And yeah, it's kind of sick. And it's okay if things are like overlapping a little bit and a little bit messy, because as long as it's far away enough, it's not really going to matter. It's just the things that are like clearly visible in sight. Obviously, take your time there and get that to look good. But for distant stuff, it's more about the essence of the thing you're trying to create and less about the exact details and getting it all to look right and line up perfectly. It's just about getting that, the essence of what you want, which is where this is going, which is perfect. And the farther away it gets from the camera, the more of a hack job you can kind of do. So, you know, that's fine. And there were some more of those over here, which I would like to just repeat on this side, like there. And maybe over here. Maybe get some facing other directions a little bit. Like where could this go? Maybe one here. Something like that. Maybe rotate it 90 degrees actually and just kind of slap it on the side of this building. And the more time you spend doing this, the better it's going to look, and the more convincing this like illusion of cyberpunk neon signs is going to be. But also the less fun it is, and the more just tedious, annoying it is. So, you know, just do what you can. This is very reflective. Let's see if I can kind of dial this back a bit. And maybe I should do a quick test render just to see kind of where we're at with this. This light is too bright. Let's take that down to like 2 or 4. Get a bit more, I don't even know, blue or whatever. Let's do a test render, just see where we're at. So my buildings look pretty flat and not very building-like, so maybe I could run the run that texture into the bump, or use deep bump to make a normal map out of it. That might help. In fact, I might try that, because that might help a lot. But yeah, we're getting somewhere slowly. This road in the middle does not look realistic at all, so I'm going to change that. And these buildings look very flat and not very textury. So let's see if I can deal with that. First of all, they need to be darker, so let's bring that down to black again. And maybe not fully, but like right there. And then let's take this, and let's use deep bump. Okay, I just had to fix the add-on after updating Blender. Just had to reinstall the thing or whatever. So, anyways, click this. Yeah, Deep Bump, if you don't know what this is, it's just a free add-on that lets you generate normal maps from images. I think it's using AI to do that, but it just gives you a normal map from an image, which is sick. So what I want to do is take this image, that city building image I used earlier, and just generate a normal map out of that, and let's see if it'll work. Might turn out like garbage, but let's just hit this and see what happens. Because that will hopefully add a bit more depth and goodness, juiciness, the technical term, as you would say, juiciness to our buildings. So if I just go back to here, let's just see what this looks like. Zoom in on one of these guys, run this into the normal, and I think that did kind of what I wanted. Now, this looks weird, but it is actually kind of a realistic effect that's happening here. So on like real buildings, you're gonna get a lot of this weird level of distortion in the reflections, which is actually what's happening here. So that's kind of cool that it did that. It's a bit messy, so I'm gonna turn it way down, but that is actually what I wanted, which is weird that that worked out. So that's cool. Let's just bring it up to like 0.0, I don't know, 2.5. That's probably a good amount. And then what I can also do if I want is take a bump node, draw up that after the normal map, and then run this image into the height of the bump, and then just decrease the strength of that. It'll keep the normals, but just decrease the strength of the bump, and then just turn that on like 0.0 something. And I can use a color ramp to dial in where that is. But first, let me save this normal map because it will disappear if I don't save it from this add-on. So save. And then this, let's take a color ramp for this bump map. I know this shader editor is just getting ridiculous, but let's quickly do this. So I want, yeah, like that is fine. Okay, so we've got a little bit more texture on our buildings now. Might be a bit too much from this normal map. Like, let's maybe turn that down to 0.02, just so it's not so extreme. And yeah, I think that's a fine place for now. Maybe more variation in the roughness would be nice, but I don't really know. I think that's fine for now. Let's get more neon signs and stuff like that in here. But maybe I could actually fix this street first too. So, wonder if this was blue, would it be nicer? Might be. But I can deal with that later. I might actually duplicate this path here, this main strip, move it just up like a centimeter, so it's not clipping through the other one. And then let's just take this object and data, make this material unique, make this image unique, open up a new image. Let's just drop a new one of these in here. Maybe this one would work. And I might have to line this up a little bit nicer, just for more like stuff going on. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit kind of what I wanted, but I'm not really sure. Let's maybe just do this. Yeah, that's fine. And I could actually take a color ramp to the other one too. I didn't actually do that. So, boom. And let's see. If I bring this in a little bit, does that help? Not really. Doesn't really need it. Yeah, whatever. This is not helping though. This stuff here, yeah. I might swap this actually for just a picture of, oh, there was one in here that was good. Picture of this, of just kind of just city nonsense. So I might just literally drop that in like this and just kind of expand it this way. And that might, you know what? This one's too weird, like weird of an angle. So I might switch that for, yeah, this maybe. So just an image like this. Let's just unwrap that properly. Apply scale first. So bunch of windows, bunch of city nonsense. Slap that on a plane, and just kind of put it in here somewhere. Just expand that way up, honestly. And just kind of, you know, just have some of that in there. And that will just add to all those reflections, just make everything feel a bit more city-ish, a bit more lively, a bit more whatever you want to call it. And yeah, we'll just kind of crank this a little bit. Let's just isolate this and see what is actually going on here. Yeah, so you don't want to see that in the render because it's obvious what's going on, but I do want to see reflections, like hints of it in the render. I want to see just little pieces of that showing up, adding a bit of life, not ruining my image, but just spicing it up a little bit so that we get just some nicer, just get some nice reflections and little just hints of just life in here, which would be really nice. I might increase the volumetric strength, so let's go to 0.075. And maybe this light is like really not helping. Might just get rid of that, honestly. And then let's see what should we do with this main strip. I don't know what color I want it, but it could be nice having it like blue. Let's put that on multiply again. I think that's better. And just bring that down a little bit like that. That's kind of cool. So we're getting somewhere, you know. We're slowly making it look more and more like a bright, vibrant city, but it's slow and it's like taking a while to get there. But it is slowly but surely getting to that point. So let's just keep adding variation, keep adding signs, neon, you know, advertisements, holograms. We'll just get as much as I can in there. And then, yeah, just layer it on, you know. And a different camera angle might really help here. Might not, but it might be very important to choose. Like, I wonder what happens if I switch this up to like 70 millimeters and pull it back. Ooh, that might be a lot nicer, actually. I might stick with that. And then maybe even drop it down this way or up this way. I think it's at a good spot here, but I think that's going to be good. And just pull it back a bit. What I could do is take this volume, pull the ceiling way down to like here, and then just crank the strength so that it's like this kind of effect. And then maybe if I take a noise texture, we're getting a bit risky here, but it might look sick if I do this. Noise into the density. Let's take a map range, and we want to say, we want to go from 0 to 1, and then I want to end up, whatever the maximum value here was, 0.1, I'll just put that to the maximum here, and then we can just color ramp this, the map range, I guess. I don't really need both of those together. It's kind of doing the same thing, but here's what we want. Scale up, detail maybe up slightly, not really though. Distortion up a little bit for a little bit of waviness, and let's just go scale up a little higher. That should be cool if I just run this out properly. Yeah, and let's just crank this in this way. That is pretty cool. So if I wanted, I could take a gradient texture and make it fall off a little bit more upwards so that it's not like such a harsh line, but I think it kind of does that automatically a little bit, so it might be fine. And I might just dial this into like the range I want, and then just really, yeah, that's cool. I might actually duplicate this, scale it up over the whole thing, and then make a new texture out of it. So let's just go click this X, new texture, delete this. Let's try principled volume. I don't know if that's going to make a difference or not, but throw that in there. 0.01. This up, scroll in and out to refresh it. So that's way too much. So let's go like 0.001 maybe. It's going to be white. It's going to be up, like 0.8 or whatever it was before. And I'm going to hide this one so that I can tell how strong the effect of our new one is. And I might just go up to like 0.02, maybe 0.04. It's a little bit much with the other ones, maybe 3. And that's going to be fine there, I think. Let's take our other volume, and now we have 2 volumes layered on top of each other. and that's going to hopefully give a much nicer effect. And I might take this one down to like 0.00, instead of 0.1, just 0.06 or something, so it's not as extreme. But yeah, that's going to be much nicer, I think. And I can pull this back more if I want. And I'm not going to worry about this like going out of bounds, because I can just layer more buildings on top to fix that. All the stuff outside of the frame that's just being bad, but I just want to check if that's going to look nicer or not. And I don't know if it is. I think this is a good spot right here. So where do we go from here? I should do a test render and just see what this actually looks like. But before that, let me turn up this setting here. Let's go to light paths and let's increase our volumetric bounces, or volume bounces, up to like 2 or 3. Maybe reflective caustics, maybe refractive. I don't think that's going to do anything. Refractive won't, because there's no refraction, but reflective may or may not help in this case. I'll just turn it on and let's hit render and just see where we're at, and just make sure I'm still going in the right direction. And it'll also expose a lot of things that I need to fix here, like little things like this over here looks really bad. Little things like this, not good. So let's just see what is happening. So normally I probably wouldn't make a scene like this totally from scratch, because I have tons of building models already. I have, kit bash packs. I have, you can use OSM if you want. You can do all sorts of stuff to just get buildings and get neon signs in there pre-made, and save you tons of time. But I just want to show how to make this from scratch, and I also want to give you the ability to use the blend file and download it. And if I use other people's models, I can't do that. Like, I'm not allowed to give it away. So if I do this, you can go in and see exactly how I've put this together in the blend file yourself. Whereas if I use like models, especially models I've paid for, even free stuff, I'm just not, like, that's illegal for me to share the blend file from that. Anyways, this is fine. The other volume I added on top of this is a bit too much, I think. So let's see if I can kind of deal with that. So let's half it. And then maybe it's just this one. Maybe it's the principled volume that I don't like. Let's take a volume scatter. I didn't think they looked that different, but maybe they do. So let's crank that up. What was it at before? 0.01? Nope. Whoops. What was it? 0.005? Still too much. 0.0025. Something like that is going to be fine. Okay. And the emission, I'm just going to pull the curves down a little bit more on those building windows. A little bit, just because it's too much. And also a bit more blue. Because why not? Or orange. We could do orange. But I think blue's going to be cooler. And what I want to do now is actually, before I forget, on these city blocks, since I pressed Alt-D, when I update one of them, it'll update a bunch of them at once, which is very nice. So I might take, how do I do this? Let's just add in a cube and make it red. So little cube here, new texture, assign, new, make it red, emissive, and like bright. And let's just see, where is that? Here it is. And it needs to be a little bit bigger, I think. And we're just going to duplicate that around in edit mode, just so that on all the other models that this is linked to, that will be updated on there. So that should show up in a bunch of different places now, which you can see is happening. And 4 looks like too much for this one, so I'm going to delete 2 of these and have it on just like that. And all of a sudden, we've got just like red kind of dispersed out throughout the entire city, because I've been duplicating this chunk a bunch of different times, which is sweet. All right, let's keep going here. We need more neon, we need more advertisements and signs, and just cyberness everywhere. Let's do something here that's kind of dark there. So let's just put, I don't know, this, slap that on there. I don't want to have too many repeating signs close together in the image, because that will kind of ruin the illusion. Like, that'll just make it obvious that you just took only a few signs and just pressed Alt D tons of different times. So I want to avoid that again. But if it's like sideways here and hard to tell, it's not, not a big deal. I think I might need a break at this point, but I do just want to fill this out a little bit more. So let's just take a few chunks and just kind of put them over here in the distance to cover up some of these areas. Just rotate that around, not with the cursor, like this. Yeah. So these buildings are so low poly that it really doesn't matter how many times I duplicate them around here. It's pretty much always gonna run smooth unless I do it like a trillion times. But I've already got a whole city and it's looking fine. It's running fine still. So that gives you a lot of freedom to just expand this as much as you want without worrying about lag at all. As long as you keep those original models low poly, kind of plan out what you're gonna do with them from the beginning. I might switch this back to 50 millimeters. I don't really like 70 anymore. Just go a bit closer. And I can always just take chunks of these and scale them up. Or pull certain areas down, like it's too dense. Just get rid of some of these, delete them, pull them down, whatever. Got flexibility, so it's all good. And what I might do at this point is actually use some point lights in here. So let's take a point light. Oops, not that. Point light, just drop it right there. 1, 2, 3, whatever, doesn't matter. Make it blue, increase the radius, and that is just going to add pure vibes wherever I put it. So just chuck that, like, in any area where I just want it to be more vibrant and glowing, I'll just throw one of these lights in there and just kind of match it to the overall color that's in that area. I think that's a good way to do it. And I don't want it to be too high up or anything. Might delete or turn off the setting multiple importance, just because that'll get rid of weird reflections here and there. And then let's just kind of put this into certain areas. I'm gonna Alt D this light in a bunch of different places where it looks good. So I might crank up this strength to like 5,000. Oh, that's too bright. Wasn't letting it load. So yeah, 1,000. Just drop that down, and that should be fine. And then any area that that seems like it should be just brighter and more glowing, just throw one of these in there, and then we're good. And we could do other colors too, like I could do whatever, orange or something in other areas, but for now, I'm just gonna do this. And I might try to see if another street is gonna look good somewhere in here. Yeah, that's fine. At this point, it's like you just keep going, You just keep grinding this out, and slowly, over time, it starts to look better. But it is a bit of a grind making these big cyberpunk cities. But the end result I think is worth it. Might get some more close-up buildings here, just for some kind of foreground type situation, something like that. It's kind of nice. I might need to take a break. I've been saying that for a while, so it's probably a good thing to do. I wonder what happens if I throw a sky in here though. Let's just see what that looks like. Might be sick, might ruin it, but it might be cool. So let's just try really quick. Let's go to my Moody Skies pack, grab one of these. Okay, so let's grab one of these skies, drop that in here, run that to the emission, and let's just see. Did I just ruin my entire image? Yeah, kind of just did. But let's see if I line up the horizon. I don't know, I don't know how I feel about that. It's weird, but it's kind of cool. Just go to the UV editor and just kind of, unwrap. Let's just kind of line that up. It's not great. That would be kind of cool, having like a dusk cyberpunk city. That would be cool. Maybe run that into the alpha. Ooh, maybe that. Let's pull that way off into the distance a little bit more, and just kind of scale this up a little bit. But that's a little bit cool, I'm not gonna lie. It's actually kind of sick. So let's take some of these and just kind of, do our little trick here. Let's go to median point, rotate 90. I could even just scale it up like that. And just really make it look like this is going way, way off into the distance. Something like that. And we'll just kind of put this way back here. Scale. And I need the volumetrics to go that far as well. So let's just expand this. Boom. And I can't see anything, so let's increase the view distance because I cannot see anything. There we go. So expand this way over there. Expand this way over here. Nice. And let's see. Is that good? I don't know. I wonder if I should just take the entire city again and just kind of duplicate it out again. Oops. I don't know about that. Maybe it's fine where it is. I could try some other skies too. Like it might work better with some other ones. Maybe something like this. I don't know how I feel about that. Like it did look fine, just pure night. So right now it's this kind of weird blend of like half night and half day. I don't know if I like that. It looks a little bit fake. So either I think I should make the entire environment brighter to match the daytime, or make the sky a bit darker, which is probably a better move. And then that way it'll all kind of make a bit more sense instead of like being half day and half night. Let's find a different image. I'm very picky with the sky I'm choosing, but it's just how it is sometimes. Ooh, that one's nice. Let's take a curves and run that into here. Yeah. So it's just, looks like just after sunset, which is really nice. But yeah, I think just that minimal, just a little hint of it like this. That's going to be nice. I like that a lot. And then maybe just bring that over here just to add a little bit of that light on this side, I think. A bit of that just kind of spills into the environment a little bit nicer. I don't know if that's making too much of a difference, so we'll just display it as bounds, leave it there. Cool. And let's see if I can deal with that problem of too many of this building. This is too much. So how do I deal with this? Let's see. One easy way, I guess, would be like take this, make sure correct face attributes is on, scale this way down, and just pull it down like this. Does that help? Maybe. You just do that. And then maybe even just take these and just lower the height of like this part. So just pull that down a bit. Yeah. Because those things were just sticking up way higher than everything else, making it look kind of weird. So hopefully that kind of fixed that. And we're looking good. We're looking good. Maybe, what if I zoom this out a bit? Maybe 40 millimeters, and then just fill in this space here. Let's scale this up, line it up again. And yeah, we'll just kind of, I guess, oh, that's kind of fucking it up. Yeah. Edit mode, bevel, just take this, delete that. There we go. Good fix. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. Now, we need more stuff happening over here. So let's take more of these buildings, just kind of chuck them in here. And if you decide to go and make a cyberpunk thing like this, I would say spend maybe a bit more time adding in more variations of different buildings, because, you know, I'm duplicating the same 6 models like 200 times, which is maybe a little bit bad. That's maybe a little bit bad. You can't really tell, but I'm having to do some work to cover that up, and it would just be a lot easier if I didn't have to do that. So maybe don't do exactly what I'm doing. Maybe spend a bit more time on those buildings, but whatever. I think I might just spend some time adding neon signs, honestly. I'm going to cut that out though, because you've already seen me do that technique. I'm just going to repeat that time like a few more times, and then I'm going to come back when that's done. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I just brought in a few more of those neon signs and just kind of put them around and refined this a little bit. So what I'm trying to do is have most of the signs in this one concentrated area, and that is just going to be a bit more visually pleasing, I think, because if it's just this dense and this complex everywhere, it's a lot to look at, and it's just very overwhelming. So I just want to keep it contained and just go crazy in one area. That also makes it easier to make because you don't have to add that much detail everywhere. It's just one area. And then, yeah, I'm just layering in signs on top of each other, like lining them up in places that make sense. I brought in a few more signs from the last project I made, which was this exact same technique of just using images from textures.com in the same exact way. Just brought some of those in, and I'm just going to keep lining them up here. And then once it hits a place where I'm good with that, there's one thing I want to do really quick, which is maybe some massive buildings. That might be really cool. So yeah, this is getting a bit crazy, but I think it's still going in the right direction, so I'm good with that. Okay, I think that's enough neon signs for now, so I'm going to call it there for this part, for the neon signs. But what I want to try is, I feel like it's just missing something in the distance over here. It might be really cool to have some humongous buildings. So I might just take this, one of these buildings I made at the very start, duplicate that, scale it up by like 2, and just kind of chuck it right there. And let's just see, like that actually falls really nicely into almost like this line leads your eye right there. And then it's also kind of in like the golden ratio, like rule of thirds area-ish. So that might be really nice if it was right there. And I could tweak the composition to make it actually line up properly. But that is what I want right there. That's cool. And I don't know if I want to use this exact building model. I'm going to, I think, change this a bit. And like let's go in and tweak the texture especially. Maybe even make this really thin. Like that might be really cool. And then maybe, what if I take this, just bring it way up. Not that high. And then what about this? What about like, move this out like this? That's pretty cool and like Blade Runner-y. I do like that. Although it looks too, I don't know, it looks too like evil and too, I don't even know what you would call it, but just like if you had an evil character in like a cartoon, that's his base right there, you know? It's not really what I want. Maybe just that. Kind of works. That thing again. I forget, I don't know if this looks like a specific building in real life. I don't really want it to. Rooftop antennas. This is why I made these, because I want to just put some of these on here and just have it work and just be like, yeah, Cyberpunk. And I don't want to put any effort in. I just want it done. Sweet. So that can go there. This could just be like there. And I just want a big, tall one like that or something. Yeah, cool. And let's do like maybe one right there. And then that could just get duplicated over here like this. That's sweet. And then maybe just shuffle the order so it's not the exact same, but just kind of similar. And then scale these down maybe. I think that's good right there. And I also want to put these onto these smaller models down here and just join them together. Okay, so these I'll just join together with this model. Since I pressed Alt-D on this model a bunch of times, it should update on a bunch of these automatically, which is really nice. Not all of them, because there's 6 of these models I made, 6 of these clusters. But if I just do this a few times, it should just be fine. So let's just do that a few more times actually. And nothing special, just drop these rooftop antennas on here. Just, you know, add some variation here and there. Just make it look like they kind of belong. And make it look like they kind of have somewhat of a proper scale. And just drop them on. And then just join it up in a second. And there we go, just select those things I just added. These are not super high poly either, which is nice. And then I can just quickly, let's just see, did I miss one? Yep. Join that up. Make sure you select the building last so it doesn't affect the origin point. And then there we go. Got a few more of those. Let's do some on this thing right here. Just put some of those on, and then yeah, just take these, select the building last, join. There we go. Should update on a bunch of them. And then let's do that on this one too. Now it's starting to get a bit laggy, so I'm gonna be careful, not do too many of these, because these are a little bit higher poly. They're not high poly on their own, but when there's 6,000 of them, that's when it can get a little bit rough. So hopefully this still is gonna run okay, but I think we're good. And that it doesn't look like it did much in the viewport, but in the actual render. I think that will add a lot of really nice detail, so that's good. This area over here seems a little bland and empty. I might just take one of these or something, just put it out there. And maybe another one over here. Rotate it 90 degrees. Sure. I don't know if there's too much more I want to do to this, actually. This is kind of in a pretty good spot. And it's getting pretty laggy because of those things I just added. There's ways to deal with that and not have it lag so much, but I'm just going to, not worry about it too much. Just kind of fill in some empty spaces, and then I'm just going to do one more test render. Let's look at where we're at here. So let's go slot 2. Send it for the test render. Again, I'm not doing a full resolution. This is just 50% test render at 128 samples, so low quality, but enough to be able to see any weirdness going on, any mistakes, any just things I need to fix. And I think in Photoshop, that's where I'm really gonna push this and just, take it to the next level in there. Because there's a lot of stuff I want to do with the color and glow and just adding depth and all that kind of stuff that you can't really do so easily in Blender all at once. So I'll show you how I'm going to manipulate this image in Photoshop. But for now, I'm just looking at this and I'm seeing, I forgot, I was going to scale up or scale down, adjust the window size on this to match everything else, because if the windows are a lot bigger on this big model, it kind of just looks like I duplicated one of the smaller ones and scaled it up, which I did, but I want to kind of hide that. So if I can, I want to just make the windows a little bit smaller so it looks like they're all, the same size. I want it to look right. So let's just do that. I don't know if I explained that very well, but here's what I'm doing. Just taking this object and data so I don't affect any of the other models, which I don't think it was connected to anyways, but just in case. Let's go here. And what happens if I just scale this up? I could just take this and go to material preview even too. Let's go overlays off just for a sec and scale. And this is kind of cool here. Maybe let's just deselect half and then only just adjust one so that I can just get a bit of variation. Now there's different sizes of windows on here, so I want to make sure it's all like matching up. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted. And if it's not really, here, I can just do a couple loop cuts. Let's take this, move this one up a little, move this one to the left a little, move this one to the right a little. There we go, we've got some variation. So this is actually turning out pretty nice. I like this sunset, but also just crazy cyberpunk vibe at the same time. That's kind of cool. You don't see that often, so I'm happy with that. I might make this a little bit darker, like 1.5. I don't think I need to do anything else. I might just send it for the final render right now, honestly. Okay, so I like this composition. It's pretty balanced, I feel like. So again, we've got this strip down the middle, which is definitely drawing some attention, and it's kind of nice that it's all in a straight line that leads your eye right up to that big building that I chucked in there. And that is, again, right on, probably not perfectly aligned, but it doesn't need to be. It's right on like that rule of thirds / golden ratio intersection. I think I talked about that in some of the other composition videos in the course. If you don't know what that is, look up, just type into Google rule of thirds and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So that is actually really nice right there. Just happened to line up, so I'm fine with that. We've got sunset, which is kind of cool. I do like that a lot, having that in there. If I take that out, it's missing something for sure. So that's kind of cool. The Moody Skies pack just, coming in handy. And just make sure that's in the frame. And then the buildings, low poly, just basic cubes, basic modeling. Nothing crazy. So I'm going to say, let's just send it for the final render. So let's go like 512 samples. Maybe more. Because it was pretty noisy in the test renders. I might do like 750. I don't think I can do it with 1,000, but I do want it to look nice and crisp, so I'm going to go a bit higher. 100%, so 3,000 by 3750. Depth of field is going to be off for this one. Nothing is even remotely close to the camera, so there's no point in having depth of field. That would probably just ruin the image and make it look miniature, and I don't want to go for that vibe. And make sure that the view distance is high enough, which it is. I don't think we need it. We don't need anything else. Maybe I could try, just for the hell of it, what happens if I make it a panoramic lens. And that looks kind of stupid, so I'm not going to do that. And yeah, I think that's it for this. Let's just send it for the final render. Maybe once I render it, I'll have to come back and tweak some things, but I don't think so. Hopefully not. I'm just going to pause this and then I come back when it's rendered and take a look. Okay, so here's what it's looking like right now. I'm pretty happy with this, and I think what I want to do is just take this straight into Photoshop and just make it pop and just go crazy and, you know, increase saturation, contrast, all this type of stuff, and just make it awesome. So, okay, so anyways, let's take this. So image, save as, and we'll just call this, whatever this is, Cyberpunk render 1, and then just, I don't even know, I should know this. I don't even know if you need to save this as 16-bit or 8-bit, but this is what I always have been doing, so I'm just going to keep running with these settings. That works. Hit OK. I don't think it really matters, though, if you want to just hit OK with straight away. Let's grab the mist pass as well. I think that's going to be really important in this one. And that should be... I might render it again and increase the depth or the distance of that, but it might be fine, actually, so I'm just going to save it for now. And hit OK. Okay, so take the image, just drag it right onto the Photoshop window, let go, and then take this thing. This looks very Blade Runner-y, just realizing that, but that's okay. Okay, so let's select, should probably explain what I'm doing here. So if we want to use the mist pass as a mask to, I've already explained this in the other videos, but if you haven't seen it, just if you want to use the mist pass as a mask, go to the channel section right here, control click on any of these thumbnails with the mist pass showing in the, like, turned on here. And that will just select all the white areas of this image and leave the darker areas less and less selected. And then what we can do is just turn it off, make a new layer, create a mask with that layer, fill this layer with some kind of color. I don't really know what is going to work, but something like this, gray-ish. Throw that on. Well, actually, let's make it a bit brighter first, and then throw it on there. And now that is getting, we have a mask of just that gray right now. If you can see, that is just there. And let's just put that onto screen. Right click the mask, apply, and then let's just, well, actually don't apply it yet. Let's go to, let's throw in a curves to just crank the contrast of this mask. And I can dial in exactly the range that I want this mist pass to fall into. So you can see, I can control exactly where this begins and ends, which is really nice. Just for controlling the exact amount of depth you want to add in here. So that's a nice spot where it's kind of like filling up the bottom section here, but then leaving the tops of these buildings unaffected. That's a nice effect. So I'm just going to apply that. Alt click the mask button again to create a new mask, but hide it. It's the same thing. It's just adding a mask and inverting it. And then we'll just take a brush, the cloud brush. You can download this from inside the course files. And we'll just make it white. Flow is at pretty low, 32. And I'll just kind of brush this in any areas that, you know, seem like they should be a bit smoggier, smokier. And this is not the right color, so I'm just going to add a hue saturation and just colorize this to, yeah, I think blue is going to be a bit nicer. So something like this, I think, is going to be good. That blue seems to be the right color, so that's just, yeah, that's nice. Right around there is going to be good, I think. Okay, let's do a glow layer. So just going to select the background layer. Same process as the other ones. I suggest, if this is too fast, go and watch the other sections in the course of me going through Photoshop, because I explain it a lot more in depth than what I'm doing here, but because it's the same exact process, like the 4th time right now. So Control J on the background layer just to duplicate it. Filter, blur, this one, however you say that. And then around there is going to be good. Let's throw that onto like screen or lighten or something. So I think screen is going to be nice. Let's double click that layer and then pop this open right here, the layer style box thing. And then in the blend if section, this is what we want. So again, the higher I take this up, it's going to cut out anything that's below the brightness of this value. And if you split the handle by holding Alt and just grabbing the second half of that handle, we can just do a nice clean fall off on that blur layer. So that right around there is going to be good. And then that's what that's doing. Cool. That's a bit much though. That's like kind of crazy. So let's take the fill down and just slowly turn it up until it's too much. So I think right around there, it's going to be a nice amount, but not crazy. Maybe 30%. Yeah, something like that is going to be fine. And then let's do a curves layer. It's going to be cool making some parts that's brighter and some parts that's darker, I think. So let's do brightening first. So invert that. curves adjustment layer. If you don't know where this is just the half circle at the bottom. So you click go to the top of your stack of layers, click this half circle, curves adjustment layer, just the one that says curves, and that's this. And then we can just invert the mask there, Control I. And then let's just take a smooth brush or soft round brush, switch this to white, and then just paint in the brightness that I want in these areas like this. I don't want to go too crazy with this, but just a good amount like this. It's going to enhance our image and not make it look worse. So, yeah. Let's do another one of those. So curves, pull it down the other way this time, and then in the areas I don't want as much attention going to, I'll just kind of take that down a little bit and make it a bit darker. Something like that. So not too over the top, not too dramatic, not wrecking my image, but just enough to where it's like nice, just, you know, enhances it a little bit. So if I hide both of those at once, there you go. There's before, after, before, after those two layers. It just makes it a little bit nicer to look at, you know? Let's just do a quick, if you just take all the layers, duplicate them all, and then merge them all together, that's the same as pressing this shortcut, Control-Alt-Shift-E with the top layer selected. And then let's just hit Control-T for transform, right-click, flip horizontal, and just check if any areas need to be brighter or darker. It's seeming like this area over here could be a little darker, and this side could be a little brighter. That might look better. So let's just kind of see. Make this a little bit darker there. Make this, you know, hide a bit of the darkening layer to, I guess, make it a bit brighter, or increase the brightness of some of these areas over here, or have that the wrong way around. Yeah, there we go. Something like that. I think that's fine. Let's do a couple other things. I should save this. And one thing that's going to be nice is going to be particles. So I'm going to use the dust particles pack that came with the course. This is an old version. I should find the updated one that's actually in the course and use that one, but this one works. It's got some of the same ones. Anyways, chuck one of these on here. Throw this onto a screen. And then just same blend if technique. Except this time we're going to use the underlying layer. Just kind of bring that up so it's not super visible in the really dark areas. Although it might be fine. It might just lower the opacity in some of these areas up here like this. And then, yeah, that's fine. Maybe actually decrease the blend if so it shows up in some of these lower down areas. That might work better. And yeah. Maybe in some of these areas, like this just looks like too much up here. I'm just going to hide some of this if I can with the dark brush. Just mask some of that out like this. Cool. And that's just going to add a bit more movement and variation and noise kind of to the image, make it feel a bit more natural. Yeah. Okay. Do I want lens dirt? Kind of. I kind of want it. So let's add a little bit of it. Some people don't like this effect. Some people complain about it, but I think it's cool, so I'm going to add it. One of these. This pack is, again, linked with the rest of the course files. I didn't make this, but I just linked to where you can download it from someone else's website, Action VFX. So anyways, throw that on and throw it onto screen. And maybe let's just flip this till I find it better. There we go. Alt-click the mask to create a new mask and automatically invert it. And then let's just brush in this in like the bright areas that seem like they should be flaring up. And also I can take a hue saturation, not parent, what is it called? Clip it to the layer below, colorize it to be yellow so that it matches our sunset. And then I can just kind of lower the fill a little bit and then brush that in just over here. I don't know if that makes that much sense, but I think it's going to look cool. And maybe just take that down slightly so it's not so bright and visible. And then let's just take this, you know, down to like there or something. Nothing crazy, just a little bit. Just make it feel a bit more natural, a bit more like a regular camera, and looks nice. Okay, I think we're ready for the camera raw filter, which is the most fun part of any of this, in my opinion. So let's do that Control-Alt-Shift-E shortcut again. That just, again, duplicates and merges all of the layers together into one layer. And we need that for the camera raw filter. And then what you do is you go up to here, filter, convert for smart filters. That's very important because it means if you don't click that, you will not be able to edit your changes later when you do this. So make sure you click convert for smart filters. Now it's a smart object. Now go to filter, camera raw filter, and this will basically bring you into Lightroom. This is basically Lightroom right now. So it's just a regular photo editor with like some fancy stuff in it. So, you know, let's just go through here and just do whatever makes sense. So a bit more contrast looks cool. And I'm just gonna go through kind of slider by slider and just, if it looks better, I'll keep it up. If it looks worse, I'll just leave it where it was. So, you know, nothing crazy. Shadows, doesn't look better either way, so I'm gonna leave it where it is. Blacks, maybe bring down slightly. Right there, looks good. I'm holding Alt to see exactly where it's cutting off and becoming fully black too. Maybe a bit of clarity, although that is kind of destroying it a little bit. See texture, no. Dehaze, no. Maybe just a tiny bit of clarity, like +4. Saturation, that looks awesome. That's just eye candy. I love that. Okay, vibrance, a little bit. If I push it too far, it's just like, what the hell's going on? A little bit is going to be nice though, so that's cool. Sharpening up, masking up, grain up. Zoom in to see what this looks like. 57 is too much. Let's do like 20 or something. 20 or 30. Right there is nice. That's cool. Vignetting, probably don't need it because I already kind of added that with the dodging and burning, so I'm just going to leave that off. And then the calibration, let's see what kind of weird stuff we can get with this. Before that, actually, I might mess with the color mixer, which is kind of like a more comprehensive version of this calibration section. And by that, I just mean you have more sliders to work with. So let's just see. Does it look better if I just manipulate one of these at once? Not really. Maybe the yellows, like, or the, ooh, like maybe that's kind of cool, bringing this down a bit. Saturate that, or bring up the luminance a little bit. That's kind of cool, making the yellows a bit brighter. That's kind of interesting. Just really hammer in those sunset tones. And now we can go to the calibration section, and maybe this will look better or worse. I don't know. I do kind of, maybe it's just easier to do it in here using these. Yeah, like maybe a little bit. Maybe a bit more saturation on like this. Just crank the blues a little bit. And you got to be careful when you're doing this that it doesn't look just oversaturated and just bad and hard to look at. You can kind of, if you crank this stuff too high, sometimes it just gets to a point where it's like overstimulating and you're just looking at like glowing, like radioactive kind of garbage. So, you know, just use saturation with caution and use it to a point where it makes your image look better and not worse. It's not like, you know, more saturation does not always equal better. The right amount of saturation equals better. And if you go too far past that, it's going to look worse. So just use it with caution. Okay, I think we're good here. Maybe let's do some color grading. So in the shadows or midtones, we could add like some blue or something. Ooh. Or like some purple might look nice, but I don't need it. Like I'm not attached to that. Like maybe a tiny bit looks kind of cool. Maybe midtones might look a bit nicer, throwing in some like warmth or something else. Maybe a little bit of purple again looks a bit cool. Like not much though, like 3. Even that's like more than I wanted. Let's turn that down slightly to like 10. And yeah, that's like balancing it out nicely. Cool. Let's see, do I want warmer or cooler? I think it's at a good spot. Same with this. Maybe taking this up slightly looks kind of cool. So I'll just put it at like +5, +10, something like that. And I think we're good. I'm going to hit OK. And look at that. That's a nice, solid difference there. Let's do a color lookup table. So again, this half circle button, hit color lookup, click this menu right here, and then choose one of the options here. And then if you just kind of choose, like click any one of these options so it's still blue around this box, and then just scroll through the options here. I'm going to turn the fill down to like 30 or 40 so that it's not just wrecking it, because these are pretty strong. And I'm just going to find one that looks cool. a lot of these look pretty cool, but let's just scroll through and just see if there's one that like really stands out. Like that one's pretty nice. I'm going to duplicate it, hide the original. Just keep scrolling through here and just see if we can find the exact optimal one, but don't need to. Like they all look pretty good, so it doesn't really matter. That's kind of crazy, but cool. And this really just depends, like what do you want? I think I like this one. And then let's do one final curves over everything. Increase this a little bit. Just drop this here. Increase this. Just fade that a little bit. What does it look like on a black background? I feel like it could maybe be a little bit brighter. Like this is making it too dark, I think. I also have a new monitor, so I'm not 100% familiar with how the colors look on here. Sometimes it looks kind of different on my phone, so I'm going to do that really quick. I'm going to come back and I'm going to make any adjustments if I need to. Okay, I'm just looking at it on my phone here, and there's a couple things I'm noticing that I couldn't really see on my computer screen. One, the sharpening looks too high, so I'm going to go into the camera raw filter, turn that down a bit. So sharpening, turn that down to like 20, 15, 20 or something. Two, the grain is too high. So let's go from 27 down to like 17 maybe. And three, actually maybe not that low, but maybe like 20. And then three, the saturation could honestly be higher, which on my monitor right now, it looks very, very saturated already. But on my phone, it doesn't look as like hyper stimulating as I wanted this image to look. And I'm just gonna crank that up to like right there, 86. So on my computer screen right now, it looks like too much, but on my phone, it looks like not enough. So I'm just gonna increase a bit and then try that again. It's not like a crazy amount here where it's like way too much. It's just a little bit too much here on my computer screen. So I think it should be fine once I transfer that to my phone. And there's this little thing at the bottom that's bugging me. I'm just gonna see if I can get rid of some of this. So let's just do a brush mask. Just kind of paint over this, a little bit over here, a little bit over here. And I just want to take the exposure down, maybe the clarity too. So just bring that down, clarity down, texture down. Okay, so after taking a break, I actually did look at it again and want to change a few things. So here's what I did that's different. Off camera, in Blender, all I did was this. I went, and so here's the original that you saw me make, and then the changes I did are right here. So basically all I did is I took all of the existing neon signs that I already put in the scene. I just took a bunch of those and then duplicated those around the city a bunch more. It didn't take that long, just spent a few minutes taking what was already there and just duplicating the same thing around a bunch more times. So you can see there's the difference that made. Just, I don't know, I think it added just a lot more life, and just, it seemed, looking at this, it just looked a little, it felt a bit lazy for me. Just, I don't know, it felt like it was missing something. Just having this really hyper concentrated area of a bunch of stuff happening and then kind of emptiness all around. So I think that just helped fill out everything a bit more and make it feel a bit more natural and real. The other thing that I changed was this road in the middle. That looked really fake, so I just doubled it up. I just took the same thing, like made it half as wide, and then just put another one next to it. I didn't add any new things. I just took what was already there, just duplicated it, scaled it by 0.5 on the sides, and then just put another one of itself next to it. So you can see that's all that changed there. And then, you know, that kind of hides whatever the hell was going on there before a little bit. Still not like the most realistic thing ever, but, you know, I guess it's like a long exposure or something, so it's fine. It's far away. You zoom out, you can't really tell what's going on. It's not a big deal. And then, yeah, same thing. All the stuff I just showed before, ran it through the exact same stuff. Didn't change the camera angle at all, so the mispass all lined up. Everything else all lined up. And then running that through the camera raw filter back to there. And you can see that actually made quite a positive change, I think, adding all those extra signs. And it, you know, it didn't take that much more effort or time. A little bit more time, but basically no effort. Just taking what was already there, what I already put in the scene, and just adding it, like duplicating the same pieces around a bunch more. That's helping a lot. Just add randomness and variation and just make it feel more alive and natural. So I really like how that turned out. And then, yeah, crazy colors in this one. Cool. So that's it for this one. And I'll see you in the next, whatever, the next videos here.